Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I certainly hope this video finds you in good health and in good spirits and all these fun kind of things. Okay, right off the bat, I'm going to apologize because this video is going to take me a little while to wade through, because what this video is about is grizzly bear attacks, grizzly bear defense, what to do about grizzly bear deterrent, a guide for helping you with grizzly bears, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, people that follow my channel, they know this, but I live in Livingston, Montana. I live 60 miles north of Yellowstone National Park. My home is surrounded by 5 mountain ranges, and 2 of the mountain ranges that we have right out, I can see them right out my front windows, got grizzly bears in them, and that would be the Vigilant Mountains and the Absaroka Mountains. Grizzly bears are a reality here, whether you people want to believe it or not. And these are some dangerous creatures if you don't know what you're doing here. Okay, now, I've got my famous little index card teleprompter with a few notes on here to keep me on track, so let me get on down the trail here and see if I can make some sense, because one of the reasons why I've insisted on making this video is hopefully I can save somebody's life, so pay attention, please. Number one, when you're out, say you're going to come up here to Livingston or up to Montana and go up in the mountains, tiptoeing through the tulips or whatever have you, the number one thing you want to do when you're in grizzly bear country is make a lot of noise. And while I'm thinking about it right off the get-go, a lot of times on a lot of these trailheads that you go, these backpacking trails and stuff, it'll be clearly marked that you're in bear country. You need to pay attention to when you run into those kind of signs from the United States Forest Service of the state of Montana stating that you are in bear country, okay? But number one, make a lot of noise. Bears do not like to be surprised, especially by human beings. They don't dig it. They don't like it. Okay, number two, one of the ways that you can make a lot of noise is just buy a cheap whistle, a $2 whistle. One of them little whistles you hang around your neck, or steal one from your coach. I'm just kidding, that kind of a deal. Number three, you can take some bells. I don't care if they're even cowbells. Take some Tinker Bells and tie them into the laces of your hiking boots or your Vans or whatever kind of shoes you got. No kidding. So every step that you take, them little bells are tinkle, 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 and making noise. That's what it's all about. Bears do not like to be surprised. If they can hear you coming, a lot of times the point being is a bear will move away. Not all the time, but sometimes, okay? All right, number four, be aware of the sounds around you. Have you folks ever been in the woods before and all of a sudden everything got deathly quiet? The birds stopped singing, the hair kind of started raising up on the back of your neck and this sort of thing? Well, when you're in grizzly bear country, you need to really pay attention to that kind of deal. If you start getting that, that sinking gut feeling that something's wrong, chances are there is something wrong. The sounds of nature are trying to tell you that Mr. or Mrs. Grizzly Bear could be close by. I'm just saying. Okay. Number five, be aware of the signs, because, for example, bear droppings is called scat, and it's unmistakable. It's usually about the size of a cow pie. Bear crap is pretty runny, and it's generally pure black as coal, and bear scat is usually got a lot of seeds in it. Why? Because bears are a browsing animal. They feed on lots of berries. They like to tear up logs looking for grubs, and they eat ants, and they tip over boulders, and they eat all kinds of nasty stuff. As a matter of fact, as far as I'm concerned, bears are nothing more than a hairy, overgrown pig with teeth and claws. One of my uncles used to say that to me all the time when I was a kid. Okay, but anyway, yeah, and also grizzly bears, they, you know, they're the pads of their paws are bigger than my hands, okay? You know, if you start cutting these kind of tracks, you'll know them when you see them, believe me, because the claws on a grizzly bear are 4 inches long. Now, I didn't say 4 millimeters, I said 4 inches. And they got 20 of them. In other words, grizzly bear's got 20 knives. Claws are 4 inches long, and you usually see, you know, like 5 points per claw out there like that. You know, you'll see the print, and then the marks protruding out from the pad marks. You know, you'll see them points. So there you are with that. So, you know, if you start seeing that kind of stuff, you know, you want to start being wary. You're in bear country. Okay. Number 6, pack bear pepper spray. Personally, myself, I'm not a believer in pepper spray. I'm a believer in spray, all right, but it's in the form of a Glock 20, but that's neither here nor there. I realize that there's people out there, there's people in this viewing audience that don't like firearms. They don't know anything about firearms. They probably don't know what kind of firearm to carry, but I am just sitting here to tell you that if nothing else, pack some pepper spray, some bear pepper spray. Now, it's my understanding that stuff is about $50 a can, but make dang sure that when you buy some pepper spray that it comes highly recommended. Make sure you know how to, you know, you work the top of the can where the trigger's at or the nozzle's at. Make sure you know how to dispel or discharge that can of pepper spray. That bear pepper spray, it isn't going to do you any good. Okay, number 7, pack a firearm. Now, I could waste a whole bunch of time on this issue here, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to tell you, if you're going to pack a pistol, make sure it's at least 40 caliber. You know, personally myself, I pack a Glock 20, a 10 millimeter. You know, to me, it's got plenty of firepower, holds enough rounds, etc., etc. But you got people out there saying, "Oh, you need a 450 Casual, you need a 500 Smith & Wesson, you need this, you need that, and all this other crap." I don't care what you pack, but just make sure that you've got good, heavy bullets. Make sure you know how to operate your firearm if you're going to use a pistol or whatever have you. And make sure you got good bullets that's got good expansion, because you got to be able to put these bears down in a quick hurry during a grizzly bear attack. Or that grizzly bear is going to win and you're going to lose and you're probably going to die. Just because you simply didn't know how to use your firearm or were packing the wrong firearm. Okay, now while I'm at it, real quick, let me throw in a tip here. Here is something that's very overlooked when it comes to firearms, and that's a shotgun. This is Benelli Tactical Shotgun. Now take a look right now. I'm not trying to be weird here, but take a look right down that pipe. What you're looking at is 72 caliber 12 gauge. This guy right here I can discharge 2 3/4 inch cartridges out of this thing, 3-inch cartridges, and 3.5-inch magnums. As long as it's 12 gauge, it'll go flying out of this pipe. Now, the reason why I'm bringing up this deal of shotguns is because I happen to know with the white rounds, and I'm going to show you a few of them right here, right now, you know, that you can absolutely defend yourself against a grizzly bear with a 12 gauge shotgun at half the cost as, say, that $1,500 Sig Sauer you've been looking at. I bought this quite a few years ago, paid just a little over $400 for it, and I have tested this out thoroughly. I've tested out a lot of different 12 gauge rounds and all of that stuff. So I'm just throwing this in as a tip to save somebody some money in case you can't afford a real expensive Glock or a Sig Sauer or a Dan Wesson, or, you know, because some of these pistols are very, very expensive, okay? But, okay, getting on to the rounds, you got to make sure that you get the right rounds. In other words, you can't use shot or shells that are like duck shot or pheasant shot. You know, that the higher the number is, the smaller the BBs are. That stuff's no good for bear protection. You take like this right here. This is a 3.5-inch Magnum, which that Benelli of mine right there will handle. And this is number 3 shot. Number 3, I said. This is some nasty stuff. Why? Because I've tested it. I've tested it on stumps. I've been up in the woods lots of times shooting old dead stumps, you know. Here's another round right here that's very nasty. This is just 2 3/4 inch, but it doesn't make any difference. But take a look at right at the end of this round right here. See that? What you're looking at, now remember, 12 gauge is 72 caliber, but that's a 1-ounce lead slug, rifled lead slug. And 1 ounce is 437 grains. And I guarantee if you hit something with this rifled slug, and it has to be rifled simply because you have to have a rifled slug if you're using a smoothbore shotgun. It has to be rifled. You can't shoot like sabot rounds or any of that other kind of stuff. But this is a very nasty bear deterrent, okay? I'm just throwing this stuff in as a tip. And here's a good old 3-incher right here. I'll just hold these up. This is a 3-inch 12 gauge cartridge right here. Well, it's got number 4 birdshot. That's pretty nasty. And here's one right here. I don't really particularly care for this stuff, but this is military 00 buck. What they call double aught buck. There's only 9 pellets in here. Now, if you look at that real close, you might be able to see that writing there. There's only 9 pellets in here, and I have tested this stuff very extensively, and I simply don't like it. So what I'm basically telling you is if you get you some slugs and some good old number 3 bird shot, man, you got it made, you know. And and I just said all that because I see so many people on YouTube, you know, acting like Rambo wannabes, paramilitary wannabes, running around with all these fancy semi-auto loaders and great big huge, you know, sidearms and all this kind of stuff. And it just cracks me up, you know, because a lot of that stuff is really overkill, you know. But when it does come to pistols, though, I highly recommend that you at least have a 40 caliber or above, okay? Simple as that. Okay, let's move along here. I'm bogged down. Okay, now, when it comes to pepper spray and when it comes to your sidearm or whatever you got, make sure you've got quick access to these things. In other words, don't have a can of $50 or $60 pepper spray, bear pepper spray in your backpack. You ain't got enough time to fumble with that backpack and get that out if you're under a grizzly bear attack. If a grizzly bear charges you, want to know why? Grizzly bears can run 35 miles an hour. They can sustain that speed up to about 150, 200 yards. Then they start getting spent and run out of energy. But they have got explosive energy coming out the gate. Explosive energy. I'm not kidding you. You do not have time to be fooling around with zippers and all kinds of stuff. And that's the same way with your sidearm. Make sure that you're able to get to your sidearm in a quick hurry if that's what you got. Okay, I just thought I'd throw that in. Okay, number 9, under a charge, don't run. I gotta have a drink. Coffee. If you surprise a grizzly bear or come up on a grizzly bear or whatever have you, and you all of a sudden I don't blame you for being paranoid or scared or whatever have you, but whatever you do, ladies and gentlemen, don't run. Because that sow, that's a female grizzly bear, or a boar, that's a male grizzly bear, they're going to run you right down and tear you a brand new rear end. There's just no outrunning them. Are you hearing this, Jamal? I'm just kidding about that. I don't want somebody to accuse me of being racist, but don't try to be some kind of Rambo or whatever have you, or like I say here, think that you're a gold medal 500-yard sprinter and gonna outrun a grizzly bear, because you aren't. you know, don't run and don't panic. Okay, number 10, try to back away real slowly. If that bear is just kind of browsing around and maybe even hasn't spotted you or whatever have you, you can very carefully try to back away. Now, if that bear stands up on its hind legs and starts sniffing the air, or if it starts making whooping sounds and stuff like that, you're in a whole different situation, let me tell you, when it comes to these bears. But you just might be in a situation where the wind's just right, that bear hasn't spotted you, and you just might be able to back away. And whatever you do, this is my next thing, is avoid eye contact. Even though bears can't see very well, they can definitely hear real well. Grizzly bears can hear very well. They can smell food, human food, and garbage and all that stuff for a mile and a half. No kidding. And they also have, then their hearing is also very, very keen. So, but you just want to avoid eye contact, because what you want to do is take a submissive posture. Take a few minutes and let that soak in. Take a submissive posture. Because these grizzly bears don't like it if they think that you're being problematic to them, especially a mother grizzly bear, a sow with a couple of cubs. You're in a very dangerous situation, because she's going to defend those cubs to the death, to her death, or your death. Okay, now, number 12, dogs, canines. This is a double-edged sword, ladies and gentlemen. Dogs and canines and all that kind of stuff are good in a way. Say like you're going to go camping, backpacking, and you got a couple of mutts you bring along, whatever have you. They can generally go out in the brush and sniff out bears and stuff like that way before you do. In one instance, they can keep the bear busy while you're able to slip away. But on the other hand, they can also go and rile up a bear where it's not necessary. And you could get charged because of those canines. So, it's kind of up to you. My advice when it comes to canines out in the wild is keep them out in the wild, out in the bush, is to keep them on a short leash. Now, you can do whatever you want to. You can let them run over hill, over dale, but if there's a bear out there, them canines will find it. So there you are, Okay. All right. Now, if you do get a chance to retreat from, say you come up on a grizzly bear or whatever have you, and you're in a position to retreat, I would retreat with a great deal of caution. I'm going to tell you why. Because it's a well-known fact that grizzly bears, there's been several instances up here in Montana where grizzly bears have circled around behind the people or the party or whatever have you, and you go tripping on down the trail thinking that you're all safe and everything. Quarter mile down the trail, you run into the same grizzly bear that was up the hill. So, you need to stay vigilant, you need to stay cautious, and you need to retreat cautiously, okay? All right, now when all else fails, let's say your pepper spray didn't work, or the can got all jammed up and didn't expel the pepper spray, or your firearm jammed up, or you don't have any of this stuff. Say you don't have any bear deterrent at all. The very best thing that you can do, ladies and gentlemen, is slowly drop to the ground, pull your legs up to your chest, like in the fetal position, lay on one side and assume the fetal position, and take and cover your ears and your head with your hands and lay perfectly motionless. Assume the fetal position. Be totally submissive to that bear. There's a reason for this. If that bear even remotely thinks that you're being, problematic, or you're some kind of a danger, or you're being a little bit too boisterous, I guess, I don't know if that's the right word or not, chances are that bear's going to attack you. Because make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, the silver-tipped grizzly bear rules the Rocky Mountains. I'm going to repeat that. The silver-tipped grizzly bear rules the Rocky Mountains. Okay. Now, when you're in the fetal position, there is a possibility the bear can come right up to you, bat you around a little bit, snip on you, probably scare the daylights out of you and all that. But the calmer you remain, the safer you are. If you try to fight back or do anything weird like try to scramble to your legs or try to poke the bear in the eye or anything like that, well, you're going to die. You're going to die. Okay. Now, if you're camping, tent camping, whatever kind of camping, I don't care what you're doing here, keep your food in airtight containers, because bears can smell human food for a mile and a half away. You need to secure your food, and don't leave garbage laying around your campsite. Eggshells, coffee grounds, any of this kind of stuff. You got me? You're just ringing the dinner bell for Mr. Grizzly Bear. That's all you're doing here. And if you're hiking, make sure you take your extra food and put it in a dry bag and hoist it up in a tree. I've seen the time that I've been hiking before, and I've taken my whole pack and just found me a big high limb and just lifted it up there and hung it up like that. But hang your extra food up in the trees. And besides that, out here in the woods, besides grizzly bears, you've got camp robbers, and there's other creatures, woodland creatures that like to get in your extra food, okay? All right, now, this last part of my little spiel here has got to do with hunters. Lately here in Montana, we've been having a lot of trouble with early season bow hunters have run into this problem, and some rifle hunters and whatnot have you. Okay, let me set up a scenario. They have harvested an elk. And elk are big, heavy animals, and one man or woman cannot handle an elk, drag it back to the pickup or whatever have you. If you don't have a lot of help or horses where you're able to cut the meat up and quarter it up and like that. There's been lots of situations where people have had to take and leave their downed animals, their big game animals, and come back and get them the next day. Guess what this has done, ladies and gentlemen? This has given Mr. and Mrs. Grizzly Bear the opportunity to lay claim to the hunter's game. That game is no longer the hunter's. That game belongs to Mr. and Mrs. Grizzly Bear. In other words, there could be a grizzly bear very, very close to your kill, to your big game animal. So, so you need to return, back to your kill, back to your area where you're going to quarter up your meat and pack it out with a great deal of caution. And where are we at here? Number 19, you need to return back to that area armed with at least pepper spray, or the same rifle they used to harvest your big game animals with, or whatever have you. But to just go blundering back to your big game animal with a saw and a knife and a pack frame and nothing else is a big, big, big mistake. There's been lots of hunters up here in Montana, especially the last few years, that went back to get their big game and it was gone. Mr. and Mrs. Grizzly Bear done drug it off. So, but, if you do go back to your game and you've got any suspicion, if you see that your game is partially covered up or it's got dirt kicked all over it or anything like that, chances are a grizzly's come along, especially up in this country where I live, and it's laid claim to your game. And you know, you need to watch this, because you'll go up to that carcass, and the next thing you know, you got a grizzly bear on you. Okay. Now, number 20 is, when you're in grizzly bear country, ladies and gentlemen, you always need to remain vigilant. You just can't go blundering up in these woods here in Montana or Alaska, wherever grizzly bears are, and think, oh, well, this will never happen to me. These people are overreacting. You know, people that's got that kind of lackadaisical attitude are the very people that die in the state of Montana, or in Yellowstone Park, or in Glacier National Park, or whatever have you. These grizzly bears, they're unpredictable. You don't know what they're going to do. They're moody. They've got a bad temper. And the worst thing that you can ever find yourself in is if you get caught between a sow, a female grizzly bear, and her cubs. She is going to kill you. She is going to fight to the death. It's that simple. And the reason why I made this movie file, ladies and gentlemen, is to simply try to save somebody's life. You need to understand the fact that these grizzly bears are here, they're dangerous, and they're to be respected. It's that simple. I'm going to leave you with this thought here. Chances are you're probably never going to have a grizzly bear encounter. Hopefully you don't, especially being charged and all of that kind of stuff like that. But here it is. You've got a greater chance of being accosted by another human being than you do being attacked by a grizzly bear. In other words, human beings, by default nature, are more nasty to each other than a lot of the members of the animal kingdom. You know, human beings rape each other. Human beings murder each other. You get the drift of what I'm talking about. You know, human beings mug each other. Chances are you've got a greater chance of being accosted or a crime committed to your person by another human being than being bothered or attacked or whatever have you by a grizzly bear. It just depends on one thing. It depends on your knowledge, and it depends on how much time you spend outdoors. But these grizzly bears are here, and they are to be respected, and you definitely need to know what you're doing in grizzly bear country. It's that simple. Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching the movie. Take care out there, whatever you do. And we shall see you on down the trail.